This session is with Jason, and Jason's an artisan who's sold at the markets for absolutely years and really sold across a very broad product range. Now, he's shifting that space into selling online, and it's all about, well, where do you start when you're just starting out with online? And it's not only about creating the socials that make sense, but also about really understanding how to niche into specific areas. Because if you're making a product for everyone, we all know that if you're making for everyone, you're making for no one. So get ready for this session with Jason.
So, Jason, we had caught up a little while ago and obviously had some time to talk about your socials. And you've since had a bit of space now, and you've now been able to dive into the world of social media. So,
Hmm.
how's it all going?
Well, I've just pulled up the stats for the 28 days. Like this is including Facebook and Instagram, like they Meta put them together.
Yeah,
8,500 views,
that's
so,
amazing.
and 95% of them was from non-followers.
Yeah.
Um, but the interesting one, the one that I put up the other day, where I'm wearing my stupid Viking hat or whatever it is. 847 views just on that one alone. Oh,
Fantastic.
that was the most popular one. So yeah, like it's not as if I've done heaps, but just in that short time, it's sort of gone through the roof a bit.
I agree. And so, when did you start with selling online? Like, what's the actual date you started?
When I joined Made It, so it would
Yeah.
have been November last year.
Yeah, because I have to say, like the transformation from when you first started to now, for me, is just huge,
Hmm.
huge growth, huge change. Can you feel that as well?
I think so, because before I went online, selling bits and pieces. I never I kept social media at a arm's length.
Yeah.
No personal stuff, no photos of me, just sort of viewed from the outside without getting involved in anything. Um, because I my work experience is like interaction with people, sales, and all that. But online, it's totally different. Like I don't know how to translate person to person skills over to social media because I know how to talk someone into buying something because doing the markets and early on in my working life, like I was selling mobile phones and all sorts of things, cold calling on people and all that sort of thing and interacting and interpreting body language and all that. But social media, you can't really do that. So that's what I'm finding difficult anyway.
But interestingly enough, like when you're talking about that, and the reason why I'm smiling is that because I think you do it so well. And it's
Mm,
probably, we have an idea of what it's meant to look like and what it should be. But from pretty much from when you started your journey with Made It, you have straight away jumped into the community. You've got to know a lot of the artists, and a lot of the artists know you because you're showing up in the lives, you're making
mm,
comments, you're actively participating. And in particular, the first time that I really got to know you was in the Thrive Challenge that we did this year, where you were like, yes, I'm asking questions. Yes, I'm also commenting on other people. And so very quickly, I can see that you've become really well known in the Made It
mm.
Collective. And, interestingly enough, when I saw Shan from Headrush Jewellery and she'd shared her unboxing of
Yeah, yeah.
your one of your Vikings.
Well,
You know,
that boosted things as well. Yeah,
what was that? Sorry.
that boosted views on my channel as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that sort of stuff really only happens when people actually have a connection with you.
Mm,
So even though you might be like, it may not be at the expectation levels where you think it should be or could be. And I think often that's what trips us up as well, where we go, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And actually, it looks quite different. And I think it's really interesting that you're starting to get that groundswell. But there's just a few little things that I think that we can really switch up a bit that
Hmm.
I think that will give you really immediate results as well. So,
Yep.
so first of all, I just want to say you are doing really well. And I think that in the next few months, you keep going, you keep getting that consistency and working out what works, you will start to see that actually create a groundswell. And I
Mm.
think already you can see it in the comments on your posts that people are commenting and posting like they know you.
Yeah, it seems to be a core group. Even within Made It, like when
Yeah.
there's lives and things like that, there's always a core group that seem happy to interact.
And so
Mm.
that's no different to a markets environment.
Mm.
So if we're putting that into, going, taking your real life skills that you've got from selling at the market, selling in person, and we're
Mm.
putting that into an online format, well, straight away, even in a market environment, there's a core group of people of people that have the stores that are connecting. And then you've
Mm.
also got regulars that are coming in. And so that's very similar to what's being created in the Made It community. And to already see that artisans are purchasing from you, it means that you've built that trust factor. So
Mm.
even though you've just done it by actually genuinely wanting to learn, genuinely wanting to be part of it, even in that process, it means that others are going, hey, this is a trustworthy person. We love what you create. And to put on top of that as well, you're also sharing beautiful photos and great videos that are super engaging.
Oh, I've never made a reel before, a few weeks ago. So,
And I love it. It's
mm.
almost kind of like one of those things that is really tricky as an artisan is that to not get too polished either. Like I
Mm.
actually think that given, your audience and everything, a little bit of that raw, um, what's the right wording? But just like it hasn't been too polished is
Yeah,
actually
unedited,
yeah, so
unedited. Yeah.
that's going to be part of the appeal with what you do, especially when we're looking at your Viking bogans and stuff, and about how you can actually really expand reach
Mm.
with that. That very raw content will actually work to your advantage as well.
It's interesting. I had a couple of comments. I think it was today about that little 360 camera rig I
I
made as
want
well.
one.
And well, you can buy them, but I didn't want to buy them, and I've always got junk here I can make stuff out of, so I don't anyway. But um, comments were, "Oh, we get to see what you inside your workshop." Like
Totally.
it wasn't so much the ship; it was, "Oh, what's he got in the background?" Like, so
Yeah.
it's true what you say. Hmm.
And I'm sure as well that you would know that from other accounts that you follow that aren't even in the
Hmm.
handmade space. There's a natural voyeuristic tendency for most humans, right?
Yeah,
They want
well,
to
it's tippy
know.
day.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And it's like, oh, what
Hmm.
have you got in the background? Oh, because it means that they get to see a part of you. Now, I've
Hmm.
got a few things that I've written down and
Okay.
just a few ideas that I think will really make a big difference. Now, when I'm looking at your Instagram, and your Instagram is coming together really well. As far as the number of followers that you've got, one thing that I would say is that you've already started to build those relationships and made it. I would start to lean on those even more because I think that the beauty of becoming part of a collective is it means that you can also gain a bit of traction as well, but also understanding that many of the artisans, as already shown, are your customers as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that could be a really simple method of you posting in the private group and saying, hey, I'm working hard to try and build my Instagram following. I'd love it if you could follow me. Pop your handle below and I'll come follow you as well. But also, if you've got feedback on the content or reels or whatever, I'd love to know that. And straight away,
Hmm.
you're starting to create that two-way conversation, but also leverage that into building that first part of your following.
Okay.
So the next part that I would say is that you know how you were saying that 95% of people that were watching your content are non-followers, right?
Hmm.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me, and this is something that I had written down, but so interesting to hear you say that, is that there's no descriptions on the post. There's no written.
Oh, in the titles.
In Instagram, so if I go
Hmm.
into this one here, the one that you've had the most engagement
Yeah.
with. And honestly, most artisans have the most engagement with photos of them. That's absolutely real.
Mm, mm.
But you've got writing on the image, but there's nothing in the actual description.
Oh, okay.
So that would be really simple where you can just say, "Hey, I'm Jason, just introducing myself. This is what I create." Sorry, dog is destroying my notebook in the background.
Oh, of course
Th-
it is.
of course, he is. This is what I'm creating because what you've got to remember is that because it's almost like I want to say some of the posts that you've been doing, it's like with the assumption that people know who you are.
Mm,
But your statistics are showing very clearly that the people that are watching and looking at what you're doing don't know who you are. And so just having a little bit of information there. Now, when I went over to the Facebook group and I had a look at the posts that you've been doing over there, which have been getting
mm,
really good engagement stuff, again, there's nothing written in the post. And what I would say with this is when I looked back further at some of your original posts, it had very much that chat GPT um, vibe, like it felt like a
mm,
robot. Whereas I think that, and I think I might have mentioned this to you on one of the lives that we did on Instagram, you know, the video that you had of your little bogan? And I think
mm.
he's doing, let me have a look back through.
The motorbike one, or
No, it was this one here. Oh, the motorbike one. It was too. With the
oh, okay.
motorbike one that you had. And it would be something so simple as to say, do you have a name for that particular Viking?
Biker bogans.
Biker bogans. Okay.
Mm,
So even something like, and I don't know the right language, right? Because I'm not
mm,
a biker bogan, but biker bogans reunite, tag the bogan in your life.
mm,
So even in that simple positioning there, what you're saying is saying very clearly what it is, and that works first and foremost with the algorithm being able to read as well what it is that you're saying is in the photos. But on top of that as well, you're telling your followers what to do.
mm,
So it may not even be tag; it could be share this with the bogan in your life and see if they can relate.
mm.
And I know there was another one that you had where the Vikings had different colored beards, right, in it. And it would
Yeah.
just be, and that had really good response on it as well. But it could just be just adding on a really simple line at the end of it that says something like, what color beard does the bogan in your life have? Because when you're doing that, right, there's a few different things that are going on there. Of course, you're getting engagement with the post, which is first and foremost what we want to be doing in social media, which you're great at as well with creating engagement. And then, secondly, what it's doing is it's almost like creating a little bit of an anchor for the person that someone in their life has something that specifically relates to your product.
Well, that's what I found when I used to do the markets. I reckon well over 95% of the people buying a Viking would be a Gen X female because they'd be buying one for their brother, their husband, or whatever. That's sort of at that stage of life that they do have a Harley or have grown beards and got tattoos or whatever. So that's what I found is the majority of sales were to females. Yeah.
See, one of the things that you could do there, that just an idea that just jumped into mind then, is that I bet you there's some great stock video footage that you can get, say, of someone driving a Harley, or you could even go onto Harley Davidson, right,
Mm,
into their socials, share some of their content, but put over the top of it one of your bogans.
mm.
And you can also,
Yeah.
as well,
Mm,
try tagging them back and like if you see one in particular where it really has got kind of a little bit of like you go, oh, that could almost be one of my Vikings, right? I think that's where you can start to get a little bit cheeky with it as well, where you can share it and you can have their video in the background, but you've got your bogan over the top, the
mm,
video perhaps, or even just a picture of it moving, right, to the side,
mm,
tagging them. But I think that's where you can start to like really, because it's when people can see themselves or their loved ones in your product, and you know this already, right?
mm,
So this is where you get to leverage social media a little bit and kind of start to get into it. Now, a few different ways that you could do this on top. Say with Shan, who did the unboxing video,
mm,
it's reaching out to, and I saw quite a few artisans who've bought from you already as well, but reaching out and go, hey, I would love to have a photo of the person that you gave it to with the Viking.
mm. Or sitting on their shelf or wherever they're keeping him. Yeah.
And even if it's like a side view of the person so that they don't have to look straight into camera, but it's
Mm,
all that sort of stuff where you're going to get that actual real connection with that product and start
mm.
to get that groundswell.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's sort of, well, it's like an action shot for them, I suppose, where actions speak louder than words.
They do. Show, don't tell,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So, one of the things that I had noticed in the Facebook group with where you were sharing,
mm,
and I think you've been getting great engagement with that. But what I was looking at, I know when we caught up last time, we spoke about trying to get some consistency with when you're posting and what your time, or making sure that you're measuring it. Have
mm.
you been able to work out a bit of a plan for when you're going to share, or whether there's a particular time that works better?
Sometimes, like, I'll just throw one in out of the blue, but I've been trying to do Wednesday and Friday, 4 o'clock.
4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah. Because I think 90% of my sales, or yeah, probably close to 90% of my sales are over the weekend.
Mm.
When people have got a bit of time in front of their devices looking and browsing and that, whereas during the week it's more about social media engagement and things like that. But the sales for me tend to happen over the weekend.
So
So
interestingly
that's why I
enough,
thought,
Interestingly enough, with sales happening over the weekend, if that was me, and I knew that sales were coming in over the weekend, I think that's the
mm,
perfect time in order for you to be able to potentially do stories on your Instagram as well. Because
yep,
when you're doing stories, it's that live 24 hours. And that's where you can start to really have some fun and go, okay, well, what would be a series of images or videos that I could show in stories to start getting a bit of traction and almost training your audience to know that you're going to be sharing content on those particular days. So let's say, for an example, if you're doing Wednesday 4 p.m. that you're sharing,
mm.
is that sharing in the Facebook group?
Both.
Both. Okay. So
Mm,
if you've just shared at 7 p.m., at 4 p.m., what you can start to do as well is that they may not see that till a little bit later,
mm,
but 7 p.m. is a really prime time as well. People tend to be on
mm,
a little bit later, but that's when you can start introducing stories and start having that quick content that you can create anytime. It doesn't have to be live. You can have it sitting there, but
mm.
then that's going to last through to Saturday morning, right? So that it's that. So if that's when people are shopping, then give them that reminder that it's popping up.
And then they get flashbacks to the reels that they saw earlier in the
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. And you
mm,
start adding all those layers. And the more, I know that I harp on about the consistency, but the
mm,
more that you get used to creating that consistency, the easier it is to create content.
mm,
Because you go, at first, you're like, oh, I don't know what to put in stories, right? I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And then you go, oh, hold on a second. I've got an idea that I'm going to create. And you start off with one tiny little idea. And let's say, for an example, a perfect example, actually, because you've shared that people are like, oh, what's in your shed when it's on the
mm.
camera turning, right? So, what if you could start off with where one of your Vikings is in the studio?
Oh, I've actually been taking short videos of Vikings being made, like the
Yeah,
different processes. Like they're only like 10-second clips, like
perfect.
making his feet, making the horns, making cutting the beads, like because there is a special way, as you know, of cutting fur. Um, so it turns out fine. So once I get all those compiled, well, then I can use those as stories.
And I think I wouldn't even like, again, if we're talking about that really raw content, right?
Mm,
Because I think something that I see glimmers of and that I know that you share, which I can see in the motorbike video and stuff, right? Is that it's your cheeky personality.
mm,
And so the behind the scenes and the making is good, but I'm talking about like cheeky personality.
mm.
It could be the bogan Viking stealing a beer from the fridge. It could be like I'm thinking almost like Elf on the Shelf,
Yeah,
but not Elf on the Shelf.
what next can I get into?
That's it.
What
Like
like your dog?
that's it. Like giving the
Mm,
personality, because it's when you give the Vikings personality that
mm,
people are really able to connect with them.
mm,
So that's kind of like, I think, where if you're getting that consistency and you're able to start sharing that sort of content, that's where you're going to be able to create that beautiful viral work. But I would
mm.
also be as well starting to follow and hunt down, or not hunt down, that's not the right word, but really follow and take intrigue of potential avatars who could be your Vikings.
So when you say avatars, like a something out of a video game, or what?
No, I'm thinking more like people of influence who look like your Vikings.
Oh, okay.
Because once you start, because the bearded community, right, it is a real thing. And it's
Mm,
almost like I think it'd be really interesting if you could start to get your content in front of people that are going to specifically relate to what it is that you're creating.
mm,
Now, there's two ways, because I know that
mm,
you're saying that your customer is potentially the Gen X woman who's
mm,
buying it for her husband or partner or whatever.
mm,
So then it's about, well, how can you get in, how can you go, and I'm talking silly things. Like you could take a celebrity who's got a big beard, who might be
mm,
wearing, I don't know, a tartan shirt, and you're like, who did it? Who wears it better?
mm.
And you've got, because it's in that
How does
comedy.
that work with copyright though?
It's okay as long as you're sharing and you're crediting them, because all you're doing, it's the same that, and for most people that you're able to share it, right?
Mm.
And you can literally do a sticker over the top. Have you got an iPhone?
Yeah, well, I've got both.
Okay. So
Mm,
when you take a photo, this is just as an aside, because you're just sharing their content. So as far as they're
okay.
concerned, you're sharing their content out to your audience. So that's okay. That's
Mm,
what Instagram is made for. But when you create, when you get your photo, let me just try and find a photo that will work with this. Okay. I've got a photo of a dog here, right?
yeah.
Is that on your iPhone, if you hold it, you can copy it, see how it's, and you can go copy. And then when I create a reel, sorry, a story. Okay, so I've just done a plain text story and written hello. Then we've got that there.
Yep.
Then you go, you do a, like you're going to put more copy over, like more written over the top, and you just
Mm.
click and you go paste.
Oh, okay. So it takes out the background.
Yeah. So you can do that with your
Mm,
Vikings. You could find someone that you're sharing, and then you can literally just write over the top of it who wore it better,
mm,
and copy and paste a picture of your Viking over the top. Now they'll get a message to say that you've shared it, but I guarantee you, like if it's someone that has similarity to what it is you're creating, they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, that's so cool."
mm,
And then they go to your profile and it says, Jason, Timber Treasures, Handmade Vikings. And
mm,
all of a sudden it's like, and that's more to have a little bit of fun as well. I'm not saying that that's the first strategy. I'm not saying that's
mm,
where you'd put all your attention, but I just think it would be an interesting way in order for you to really go, hey, well, I'm getting good reach with what it is that I'm creating. How do I keep that momentum going? And how do I expand it a bit more? And how am I getting people to follow me as well?
mm. Because I think back of like the brand Coca-Cola. It's never changed. It's always been a drink in a red and white bottle. So how do they keep the customers rolling in, like over 100 years or whatever, however it's been made? And it's all through lifestyle advertising, fit
Yeah.
young people on the beach, all that sort of thing. The product itself has never changed, um, but they still invest millions into creating likable content, I suppose.
So what they're doing, so that's a really interesting, I guess, aspect that you've picked up there.
Mm.
What they're actually doing when they put it into lifestyle is they're putting it into a lifestyle where thousands of different types of people can go, I can relate because that looks like my life.
Mm.
So the same way in which I'm saying with this strategy about kind of going, hey, how can you put it in front of people so that they go, oh, I can see myself in that. I can see my dad in that product. I can see my brother in that product. And all of a sudden it's getting groundswell. Because I
Mm.
agree, drinks, any of the fast moving consumer goods have that down packed. And
Mm.
beauty is another area as well. People that are doing,
Mm.
lipsticks and stuff. And it's like, the skill where you're able to talk about the same product constantly and
Mm.
have it look different is an absolute art form.
Mm.
And I
Well,
think
well, you're not.
the
Mm.
more you're leaning into the Vikings specifically, the more that you're going to be able to get that traction as well.
Oh, I guess it comes down to you're not selling the product, you're selling the idea and the atmosphere and the lifestyle that goes with it as well.
Yep,
Mm.
absolutely. But just a couple of technical things as well is that
Yep.
when I was looking at your Instagram and your Facebook, you've got a little bit of inconsistency, and I'm guessing it's because you're just trying it on for size and seeing what it feels like, which I totally
Mm.
get. But you've got
Mm.
My Timber Treasures, you've got Jason's Vikings, and then I think on Facebook you've got Jason's Vikings, My Timber Treasures, maybe?
Yeah, with Meta, you go down a rabbit hole of never ending,
I know.
and because like in my workshop, I've got two separate computers, two screens going, one for business stuff and the other one just running all the time. Plus, I've got the
Yeah,
iPhone that I only use for camera work because it's got a great
yeah,
camera. Then I've got an Android phone, but they're all linked together, but they all operate differently when it comes to posting and alerts and all that sort of thing. So sometimes stuff does get missed out depending on what I'm using to post at that point in time
yeah,
because you can't. Well, on a PC, you can have Instagram, but you're very limited of what you can and can't do.
yeah.
You can put basic things, but if you could have the same usability as you do with an iPhone on a PC, it would be great. But I only started using the iPhone probably a couple of months ago. So,
I love
so
it. You're all in. You're all in
yeah,
with all of the equipment, all of the stuff.
well,
So,
you've got to adapt. That's what I've
yeah, I
always.
agree.
You've got to adapt to trends and what customers want.
So, as far as like from a name perspective, are you thinking of possibly shifting away from My Timber Treasures to Vikings?
Well, that yeah, probably, because Timber Treasures is the legal trading name, like it's
Yeah,
registered name with the ABN and everything, and that's what I used when I was at the markets because I was selling kids' toys, jewellery, like all sorts of timber things. Whereas now it's basically just all Vikings. So I see where you're coming from. That the business name isn't really highlighting what I'm selling.
I just think it's like because you're using so many different variations of it, it's
Yeah,
it's a little bit unclear.
yeah.
And again, I think we've just got to remember that customers have such little time and they're not
Mm.
really thinking when they're scrolling. So the more simple you can make it, the better.
You got to grab them instantly, otherwise
Yeah.
you miss the boat.
Yeah. And so,
Mm.
coming up with a name, because even though that's your registered name, there's no problem. Like these are literally profiles on
Yeah.
social media. So it's not like they have to match, and it's not like you're going to
Okay.
need to change your ABN name. But
Yeah.
it is about kind of going, hey, I'm going to make a decision about what the name is, and then making sure that everything matches. Your
Yeah.
store
Same.
name, your
Same. Yeah.
Facebook, your Instagram, like make it all exactly the same.
Mm.
And then deciding as well whether you're going to have Jason in the name or whether it's really going to be like, I don't know, Timber Vikings or something that you want to
Mm.
do. And then, like, let's just say, for example, that in your Instagram handle, you went, I'm going to call it Timber Vikings, just as an example. Then in your name, you would have Jason, a vertical line, and then just put Timber Vikings.
Mm.
And I think it's important that when you're searching for yourself and just have a look at how it comes up in the different areas before you
Mm.
make a decision on what it's going to be. But I think that the beauty of where you're at is that it's not that it doesn't matter, but as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
And it's still like you've kind of been dropping in Jason's Vikings and Timber. Like, so these are all words that have sort of kind of been floating around. And now it's like, right, okay, well, if you're going to make a change, you're going to stick to that name, then I would just make sure that it's everywhere that you're using, that it's written exactly the same way.
Mm. Yeah. Because yeah, well, when I set up a separate Facebook and Instagram account for the business stuff, because they want it linked to your personal stuff as well. Um, yeah, it caused all sorts of problems. So I
Yeah.
guess I need to go back in and sort it
Yeah,
all
it's
out.
It's
Mm.
one of those things that I just call kind of like social media house cleaning, where it's like,
Mm.
you know what, I've just got to get these all in line. And then making sure that even with your bios, right, that you go, okay, and you've got multiple screens, you've got multiple devices that you can have them
Yeah.
all lined up and go, okay, well, if I was going from here to here to here to here, would it
Mm.
make sense? Now, interestingly enough, with your logo that you've got on your Made It store, because I love the photo that you've got of yourself on your Made It store as well. I think it's a really important part of the story. But I would even think about, because it's not necessarily about printing cards and that sort of stuff, right? Actually taking one of your Viking pictures, because your photography is really beautiful, and actually having that as one of like as your logo, and then having
Okay.
that as your Instagram, profile picture, and then having that as your Facebook profile picture.
I
So
think
that
I've already got him as the Instagram profile. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, I do.
okay,
Um,
let me just have a look here. You do. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's very easily recognizable. So again, you just want to make that consistency across
Yes.
any of the channels so that every time you show up, that it's very clear that it's you.
Well, the less confusion you take out of it, the easier it's for people, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'd
Mm.
play around even like, and you can change this as well because you've got so many different Vikings,
Mm.
just play around with which one's going to be the most eye-catching in that little space. So, what I would say from here, if I was, going to say, like, what would be the best course of action for you,
Mm.
getting that consistency, but also, like, don't get too caught up in what it's going to be, like, really trying to do as much raw content as you can.
Okay.
And making that you're going to go consistent and you're going to stick to those times which you've already got, the Wednesday and the Friday, and
Mm.
then you're able to, because we've got set times, we've got set days, then from there you can go, okay, which is the content that's performing, and start to become the investigator and go, why is it performing, which ones are
Mm.
people commenting on, like, and tag your products as well from your Instagram profile. You should be able to tag those to your Made It store so that people can click through straight away to get to that product.
Yeah, I found that confusing. Like when you say tag, is it hashtag or
No, when you what you want to do is that when you actually go into your product, like let's say for an example, and this is a new functionality that's come up, but let's
mm,
say for an example that this is a made it one that we've got here, that there's actually an opportunity that when you edit it, you can actually tag product from your shop.
yeah.
And somehow Meta has given us the gift that people that have made it stores can also tag their made it products.
Okay, because you can't put external links into Instagram though, can you?
No,
Like,
and
mm,
there's such a waste of time as well. And I'd
oh,
noticed
okay.
on a couple of posts where you put it, but literally people are like, because you can't even copy it. It's not like you can hold your
Yeah.
finger on and copy it. It's a complete wasted space. And I
Mm,
think you're using Chat GPT, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah. So what I would do is try and find voices that you like the sound of and
Mm,
ones that are doing it really short. Now, one that I use is where I'll write something and I'll say, write it using Seth Godin style. Now, Seth Godin's a very famous marketing guy, but his style is very short and to the point. But for your stuff, right, I think you want to try and find someone, and if you can find someone famous where you like how they communicate, where it's got a little bit of cheekiness, a little bit of fun in it, but it's also very much straight to the point.
mm,
And it could even be a comedian that you like, where you're like, can you give it a little bit of humor in the style of,
mm.
and just start seeing what comes through? Because I
Because
think,
you can train ChatGPT too. Like if it's too long, you can just type in shorter
absolutely.
or more concise or whatever, and
And so one of the
it'll
things
bring
that
it
you
all
could do,
together.
if you start following a few accounts that you love and you see
Mm,
someone's description, purely focusing in on the description for a second that they put on the
mm,
post, right? Copy and paste what they've got and go, I love this. Can you start helping me create this for Jason's Viking Timbers or Timber Vikings,
mm,
whatever it is that you're going to call your brand, and start working on a whole lot of one-liners and then go, I've got this idea to shoot the Vikings in my studio doing different stuff. I'm thinking
mm,
Elf on the Shelf kind of crossed with this sort of style of uh like one line sort of comments. Can you
yeah.
help me create those?
Mm,
And that could almost be your starting point because then ChatGPT might be like, oh, yes, have him doing this, have him doing that. And it's not like naughty elf on the shelf, like as in the
mm.
crude stuff, right? It's really about the cheeky ones.
Yeah, mischievous. Mm,
Yeah, yeah. And I think your
mm,
Vikings are already starting to get that kind of personality. Like I get
yeah.
the vibe from what everyone's saying. It's like, oh, they're the cheeky ones.
Well, that's how I used to sell them at the markets. Um, because if someone was looking at him, I'd always throw in a one line, oh, be careful, or he might jump on you, or he might
So
hit you with an axe or something.
perfect. All that stuff
Mm,
that you probably have already been doing. Again, that's what I'm
mm,
saying, because I know you're saying it's really different. Yes and no. Any of that stuff that you used in person, pop that in and just
mm.
see what response you get to that.
'Cause, well, it's probably not the right word, but flirting with the potential customer always makes them feel at ease and they're happy about buying something. So I guess that would translate to online as well.
Absolutely. And when we talk
Mm,
about even the word with flirting, right? Flirting means making eye contact,
yeah.
noticing someone, seeing them, hearing them. So that's how we want to create that connection and
Mm,
engagement. It's like, I see you, I hear you, I can have a laugh with you. And that's
mm,
what it really, most people come into social media to get a bit of a break and
mm,
not to have it so serious. So if you can feed into that space, I think you'll start to see that real groundswell. But just keep going, keep being consistent, and make sure
mm,
that you're measuring what you're doing so you can work out what's working.
mm. Well, it's good that Meta do provide like stats for you to go back and see what is working and what photo or reel or whatever. So that's pretty good, I reckon.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's fantastic.
Mm.
Hey, well, Jason, thank you. Thank you
No,
for
well,
sharing.
thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for having a look.
Yeah, pleasure. And I just want to thank you as well because you are really are such an awesome active member of Made It. And I always love seeing you jump on the lives and you're, the first one to comment and to really get involved in the conversations. And it's such an important part of the puzzle when it comes to Made It as well.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.